Jason Poblet. Jason, always great to see you, my friend. So Cuba's government, as you know, is facing its worst crisis in decades, and there are reports that the Trump administration is really actively preparing for the possibility of the regime's collapse. Do you think, Jason, this is finally the moment that the communist government loses its grip?
Good to see you, Tracy, and great question. And there's a lot out there right now that is real difficult to unpack because, of course, it's a communist state and we get data out of there very randomly, but it isn't a very tough bind. It has been in tough binds before. And the Cubans, of course, have many contingency plans, and they are committed, at least on what they're saying publicly, to the communist revolution. But what is important, and what I see now that I haven't seen in decades from the U.S. government, is a refocus to its national security strategy on the hemisphere, something we've talked about here many times before. And Cuba is a central part of that. So what are we seeing over here? We're seeing enforcement of sanctions, new sanctions. We're hearing companies like Sherritt, the Canadian mining company, has left Cuba reportedly. We're now reading stories about Spanish hotel companies leaving Cuba. You know, why is that important? Because ultimately, there's a few issues that we need to resolve with Cuba. Some are really difficult ones. Some of them have been long-standing ones that go back to the 1960s, like the property issue. Cuba owes American taxpayers over $10 billion or more in properties that were confiscated: hotels, homes, land, farm, you name it. We have to have serious conversations with Cuba about compensation. By enforcing the law, it is signaling to the marketplace, if you're going to invest in Cuba, you have a choice to make. You either choose the U.S. market or you choose the Cuban market. And I think American companies should be put in a better position by telegraphing the right signals. And I think that's what the Trump administration is doing, that if you're going to be choosing, and Cuba has a choice to make. Cuba can choose to continue to try and get around our sanctions, but if they want access to the U.S. marketplace, they know the conditions. So it's not as if we're creating this more problem for them. They have brought this upon themselves through decades of central planning. And what is good to see today is the U.S. government enforcing our laws to make sure that these malign influences don't penetrate our marketplace, but also telegraph to the Cuban people that there can be a better tomorrow. We just need to work through some very complex questions, of which property is one of them.
Yeah, and Jason, according to reports, the U.S. has been reviewing contingency plans as the tensions with Havana really continue to escalate. How concerned do you think we should be about Cuba's relationship with China, Russia, and Iran, you know, given Cuba's location just 90 miles from Florida?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question, and that's part of this realignment of U.S. policy toward the region. Cuba has long been a close ally of many American adversaries, such as Russia, China, Iran, terrorist organizations, terrorist groups. There's a military base in Cuba. So ultimately, look, Cuba understands the calculus here. The Cuban military understands the calculus here. So it's not a battle they want to enter as far as direct military conflict. And I don't believe the president wants that either for Cuba. But there is a problem, and that's one of the many issues I keep mentioning to you in prior interviews and now, is that we have this property issue, you have Americans wrongfully detained in Cuba, and you have this prickly issue about Cuba's relationship with the rest of the world. If you want to choose a lane, I think it's time to have a deeper conversation about the world as it is today and not keep trying to relive a Cuba that no longer will be. I think that's pretty clear. Cuba economically is in dire straits. I believe politically it's in dire straits. But that's a conversation for the Cuban people to have. America can be a ballast here. We can do this correctly without military conflict. But the good news is that all options are on the table for once. And I think that's a great place to have this type of a conversation. We're not just cherry picking what we may or may not do.
Yeah, indeed. We're running out of time. We had a good chance to really touch on Venezuela and then also Colombia. They are having elections there. Arjan Gizzi is down there right now. Talk to us a little bit more about that and really how important this is, Jason.
You know, what I'll be watching for in Colombia this weekend, because I don't believe the outcome will be resolved. I don't think we'll have a final outcome in the election. I'm going to see if the right remains united or is divided. If they can divide the right, I think that will be probably not the greatest outcome for us. But the bottom line is Colombia is going through a very interesting phase. And I really want to also understand the parts of Colombia that are very tense right now, violent even. About 2/3 of Colombia's municipalities are in a state of control that the state may not be able to corral them. And these are not the ideological type of divisions we had back before the peace process, the term I use very loosely. It's a new dynamic in Colombia of lawlessness, corruption, transnational problems in that part of the world. So for the Andean region, for U.S. security, the outcome of those elections are important. America wants stability in the Andean region. A stable Colombia is good for U.S. National interest, U.S. security in the region. But right now, these elections are going to be, I think, a bellwether on whether or not we're going to choose one path or the other, and whether, and more importantly, Colombia as a nation state can control the violence, because that is becoming a problem. Remember, they assassinated a presidential candidate, and right now, Petro's potential successor seems to be holding an edge. Again, I don't want to get into picking winners and losers, but I'm just going to be looking at, can the right keep together? Are they going to be divided? And can Colombia as a state get through this process without falling back into a more unstable scenario? So it's an important election for Colombia and for the region.
Yeah, and I know a lot going on in the region. You follow that very closely, and it has a huge impact on us here in the U.S. Jason, great to talk to you. Can't wait to have you back on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Tracy.